Good morning, my name is Amanda and welcome to the Lenscap Chronicles. Thanks for joining me today in this series on Portugal. We're off on an amazing day trip from Lisbon to Quinta de Regaleira, Sintra and the Pena Palace. Let's get going! This morning I headed across the road to the local patisserie, had my pastel de nata, the famous cream custard tart in Portugal, coffee of course, and now I'm heading out the door to meet up with my group at the Rossio Square Fountain, which is the designated meetup point.
Here we are in Sintra, almost at the palace. It's a quaint old village in Portugal. Sintra Palace is 1,000 years old. It was built by the Moorish people and it's in a neo-Manuelan style. The architecture is extremely elaborate.
This is the oldest hotel in Sintra and it was built just after the earthquake of Lisbon in 1755. So the hotel was built in 1764. Lord Byron stayed here, as well as Hans Christian Andersen. This town of Sintra is located at the base of the Sintra Mountains. It was really a place of refuge for the royals many years ago.
This is the lineup for Quinta de Regaleira. It is long.
Our guide has just been giving us some of the history of Quinta de Regaleira. This used to be a palace of a man called Montero the Millionaire, who was just 23 years old when he inherited a lot of his family business fortune, and he was second most wealthy in Portugal behind the king. So he came here and he developed this palace, this garden. This was his summer house, and he passed it down to his son, who unfortunately lost it all with gambling and became known as Penniless Pedro. The journey through Quinta de Regaleira is meant to represent the journey of initiation of the human soul. I've just been speaking to our tour guide, and so the owner that I was speaking about, the 23-year-old who inherited this land or built this land, he was supposedly a Freemason, and he built the entire gardens to represent the journey through life that your soul will take. And there are a lot of themes here based on Freemason iconography and traditions and legends, based on the journey along purgatory to eventual damnation or salvation. So the entire walk through the gardens represents this at various stages.
Here we have the lakes of Purgatory, and you can see this cave which represents damnation. It leads towards some steps to heaven. So in the background you can see the caves and stepping stones, and they lead towards the staircase, which in turn ascends to heaven.
And so one of the inspirations for Montero the Millionaire in creating these gardens was Dante's Inferno, which is the Italian book based in the 14th century.
Thanks, see the key.
take the group to climb up the Tower of Babel, as they've called it. It's a really fascinating tour so far. Our guide is giving us some really quite funny insights into this Quinta de Regaleira. I cannot say it, it's Regaleira. Anyway, it's a lot of the history and legend is based around the owner, who was thought to be a Freemason, and so a lot of the legends relate to concepts such as heaven and hell, purgatory, and how to get between the two, what's your decision, what will you choose for your life. So a lot of the discussions and stories that we're hearing today are based around those concepts. Okay, well, I better not miss the group. We have been to the Lakes of Purgatory just now. We're going down to the base of the tower, which is meant to represent going down into the underworld, and then we will also visit the upstairs really light area representing heaven. Yet some more Freemasonry iconography. These two tritons are guarding a conch, and this is meant to represent the female womb, and you can see that actually there is a smaller conch at the base that's being birthed through this inverted triangular shape representing a female womb. And back to reality, this is the initiatic well lineup. You can see this carries on for a while. These tours require some patience.
When you're at the bottom, the sun is directly center with the well itself. And if by any chance it's raining, a rainbow is formed directly halfway.
Entering the initiatic well, representing the 9 circles of hell. This well is 27 meters deep.
Figuratively, I've ascended back to heaven again, which is much where I prefer to be. Yeah, just interesting place, I guess, full of lots of stories and interesting concepts. If you didn't know any of these, if you didn't have a guide, you would probably just think you were walking amongst some old ruins and some beautiful gardens. So, I mean, it pays to have a guide sometimes, just so that you do get the inside word and some of the really interesting stories. With a lot of these European traditions, it's quite difficult to know where legend ends and history and fact begins. This is the exclusive chalet where Johnny Depp's movie The Ninth Gate was filmed. A really picturesque location. We are now stopping for lunch in Sintra.
Our incredible guide grew up in the city of Sintra, and as a boy he was friends with the owner of Bar de Vino, which is where we are headed for lunch for a very special wine tasting.
It's a short group, hopefully he's not going to kill me.
It's the oldest.
Yeah, it's the oldest one that they have here up at the shop, called Bar do Vinho, which is also the oldest port wine bar that we have in all of Portugal from 1927. And this illustrious collection that Paulo has up in here, it's one of the oldest ones and one of the best ones that we have in Portugal. On the right side here we have port wine, on the left side in there we have Madeira wine.
So I'll start with a white port. Okay. It's a single harvest white port. I'd say a bit of apricot on the nose, mostly really persistent maple syrup caramel at the finish.
have a homemade ginginia.
Cheers!
Cheers! Ginginia! Ooh, a delicious cherry liqueur.
During around the, let's say, around the 1700s, the Marquis of Pombal had his own idea. The idea was that the whole country should produce port, then we should blend all the casks from all the country and export that wine.
Here we have the famous Madeira wine, and I've got my first tasting right here. Yeah, it's delicious. We're just leaving the wine tasting now, and the last one that I showed you, the Madeira wine, is so famous that Thomas Jefferson used it to toast the Declaration of Independence. That's just how amazing it is. It's got molasses kind of flavours on the end. We've arrived at Pena Palace and we are walking all the way up the hill to reach it.
I'll tell you all about it in there, in that tiny little balcony that we have.
Pena Palace is 1,000 years old and stands atop the hill at Sintra. It's a fairy tale palace and it's covered in a lot of German folklore and Portuguese folklore. Amazing Pena Palace initially began as a monastery, which is the red section to the palace that you can see, and the king acquired this and decided to take it for his own and create a palace around it. So you can see that it's created with 3 monochromatic colours, yellow, blue and red, and inside the palace the roofs of the rooms gradually get higher and higher, and this is because the initial part was the monastery. The monks didn't need to have such high roofs to be living under, however the grandeur and pomp of the king required to have very high roofs. So we'll see that as we travel along inside the interior.
Your hand is the one that they made, one only one. My friends, I have to give the trophy to the ones that chose the door alone. Why is it so? I'm going to show you. If you're coming to meet the king, can you give me the arm? You come accompanied. You always look your other hand. So the door needs to be big enough for 2 people to pass. Thank you so much. On the other side, the servants of the nobles that would bring the trays and the gifts to the king would go through the kitchen up here. Okay? And also, look, in here, you still have the vines growing up. Okay? They haven't blossomed. You don't have flowers, you don't have fruits up in here. It's an unfinished wine. But if you're gonna go and meet the king, the closest entity that you have to God himself, your life will be fulfilled at the end. And that's why here we have the leaves and the fruits all the way around. Okay? The last stage of our existence.
Here we have one side of the Pena Palace which overlooks the Atlantic Ocean, whereas the other side shows us the city of Lisbon. Here is the dining room of King Ferdinand II.
The inside of Pena Palace is stupidly busy. It costs €14 for a ticket to the entire palace, and that includes entry to the inside as well. It's designed of the classical romantic period, so all of the indoors are very similar to Neuschwanstein. If you've been to Bavaria in Germany, the castle's interior are all very much the same. King Ferdinand II was just 19 years old when he became king and married the 15-year-old Queen of Portugal. So I think that's illegal in most places these days. Here we have just a remarkable viewpoint across Pena Palace from the outside. You can see all the people lining up and taking photos in the turrets, the colours, the intricate Portuguese and German artwork and sculptures. It's just incredible, and there are wonderful views across Lisbon and across the Atlantic coastline. Well, it's been a massive 12 hours, and I think it's only fitting that we finish the day with a glass of the famous Gentiana sour cherry liqueur. So good night all, it's time for bed. Thanks as always for joining with me today. I look forward to the next few days in Portugal with you.